Hello, friends. Welcome to the latest episode of Social Harmony. We're up to 81 now. Boggles me, boggles me. Well, today I'm joined by Ilke Lander. She is an absolute force of nature, as I'm sure you'll hear in the conversation that we've got to follow. And yeah, she's done so much. I mean, she talks in her formative years about a dad who was very front facing, very go getting, saw a goal, went after it. And that's clearly rubbed off on her. And she talks about how she, I think, lived in 30 different homes by the time of 30 years old across a number of different countries, learning something all the way. She's multilingual from time in Brazil, in Venezuela, in the US, etc. And just just the way that she sees something and goes for it with that purpose and intentionality, I find really inspiring. Something that I wish I'd had at a younger age that maybe even now I don't have to the same degree that she has. But it's easy to look at, the things that you've got, the external trappings. And we talk a lot about the grind, how much you have to put in to get these things. People see a nice house, a flash car, the trappings of wealth. But what they don't see is crying over your P&L accounts when you're trying to make things happen. When during COVID, for example, she had to let go a trusted team of great people. So there's as many highs as lows, and it's about facing them and being okay with not knowing in what she calls the white areas of things and just going through it with purpose, with intentionality, but knowing that there's a chance that you may get something wrong along the way, and that's okay. So please, I hope you enjoy this episode. I really enjoyed talking to Ilke. She's amazing, and I'm sure you'll think so too. Thanks for joining. For episode 81, and today I'm joined all the way from Georgia by Ilke Lander. So, well, if I could ask you, Ilke, reading through the bio that I got from you, it's very much I suppose, a phoenix from the ashes kind of story, not to try to start it off too grand. So, can I ask you, who are you? What do you do? How did you get there? There's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that question alone is a lot
This
to answer.
exactly.
Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I at now? Well, you know, uh, when presented with in a new, like a networking kind of event, I would say I'm a entrepreneur for over 2.5 decades. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
life and business coach. I'm a keynote speaker. Who I really am, though, I feel like that's what I do.
Mm.
Who I am is someone who's always been really passionate about growth and stepping into purpose and creating community and achieving things, being ambitious, and then helping the ones who are a few chapters behind me come up
Mm.
with me. So that's always been kind of my compass in life.
Yeah.
Um, as far as moving through the different challenges I have had. And
Mm-hmm.
I have had the blessing and both kind of curse to have gone through a lot of really challenging experiences, including, challenges of identity, moving internationally. I think I moved 4 or 5 times, different countries
Wow.
before I was 16. Before I was 30, I moved more times than I was years old as far as homes and residences. And that comes with a lot of great exploration, but also comes with a lot of
Mm.
challenges of who am I? What do I do? Where do I fit? How do I
Mm.
go? And then that kind of theme has progressed through my life, and what's given me a really great ability to navigate the transition times, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
call them the white spaces in between point A and point B. Some
Hmm.
people call it like the messy middle, or the
Yeah.
that part where everybody, doesn't feel comfortable and has self-doubt and overwhelm and
Mm.
uncertainty and all of those things. I'm actually comfortable there because I've done it so many times
Mm.
that in the unknown, I'm okay with all of those feelings and being in that state, but then also picking it apart to figure
Mm.
out where am I going, what serves me, what do I need to do, and how do I get there.
Lovely. Yeah, no, I like the idea of the white space thing. That's something I'm keen to explore because I don't know whether you see it or not, but I see a lot of people, they want to be fully formed, as it were. They have an idea. It's like, right, I want to be there now. You know, I don't know, you might see somebody say, I want to be famous, but there's a lot of grind getting from that point to this end goal and, or whatever you want to call it. Um, and yeah, I think that's something, but I'd like to. But if I can ask you, you said like you've moved about 30 times. It sounds like a really rootless existence, a really rootless upbringing. So can I ask you to take us back to the start? What was little Ilke like, and what did her life look like?
Yeah, so my parents, most of which I get asked quite a bit, my parents were not military. My dad was just kind of fearless and had an explorer in him and wanted
Hmm.
to. I'm originally from Belgium. Both
Hmm.
my parents are from Belgium, and they left there when they were 20 and moved to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where I was born.
Wow.
And he was always looking for opportunities to step into his next role and was willing to take risk. So he
Hmm.
was very, which a lot of us are very have aversion to risk,
Yeah, yeah.
to taking that step. My dad did not. He just felt, he just did it. And so
Mm.
when we were little, we went for the ride, right? So we spent
Mm.
about 6 years in Brazil. We went back to Belgium before we came to the United States as immigrants with a green card, spent some years here, transitioned to do my high school, partial of my high school in Caracas, Venezuela, moved
Hmm.
back to the United States, now in New York City, where I went to college and so forth. So I spent a lot of time establishing myself, finding a
Mm.
path, and then 5 or 6 years later, starting all over again. And many
Mm.
times in a different country with a different language, with different friend groups. And it was never easy, never an
Mm.
easy transition. And depending on whatever season, whatever phase of childhood I was in, the preteens where the friends are just blossoming, the boyfriends are just blossoming.
Mm.
That was tough as a high school graduate leaving what felt like some security going into the
Mm.
college life. And so that's kind of what I did. I was a classically trained ballerina, so I started when I was very, very young, and I that was my common thread throughout all of those years. So wherever I
Mm.
was, like in Venezuela, I danced with the national company there. So I did it semi-professionally, came to the United States and did that, and that was my common thread, my like
Mm.
home base, and that
Okay.
similar to any other type of athlete, like a gymnast or a track runner, there is a large amount of discipline and hard work and
Mm.
dedication that goes into that. And that to me, in hindsight, is what gave me the foundation to then navigate those transitions in other ways in my life. So I
Mm.
dedicated 5, 6 days a week, even as a 11, 12, 15, 16-year-old child, um, into this sport or performing arts. And that gave me a common denominator throughout the whole thing, but also the
Mm.
discipline that I needed to be able to put in work to figure out
Yeah.
what's next.
Okay. Wow. I mean, that sounds fascinating in and of itself. I'm trying to make sense of it. I mean, I would imagine now there's a lot of benefits. You know, you're multilingual, you've seen some fabulous places and what have you. But like you
Yeah.
touched upon, when you're that sort of tween teen age, I suppose friend groups are everything, and wanting to find yourself and I suppose know who you are and grow into something. I think it's very good that, like you say, you had ballet as an anchor, at least something to, I suppose, yeah, find some stability in. And yeah, and I've been seeing a few ballerinas at it. I yeah, the discipline and the work and what have you frightens me now.
Yeah.
So, wow. No, that's
Yeah, and I've what's funny thing even now, I'm in my mid 50s and that has always been a common denominator for me, an anchor through the rest of my
mm,
life. Even though I stopped doing ballet in my early 20s, I
mm,
always looked for the physical expression of that grounding discipline. And I really believe that that is definitely, it shows up in the physicality in my life. I had a martial arts school. I trained in martial arts for 10 years and
oh,
did that. So the physicality kind of lingered on. I was in law enforcement, did training there, did races. And now in my 50s, I'm a novice bodybuilder. So
mm,
that common denominator, that it bleeds into everything, that
yeah,
discipline, the laser focus, the decision to take a path that's not as common, to get the good life, the life I want to design for
mm,
myself. That comes from that physicality being in there. It bleeds into everything. My
mm,
relationship, my children, my parenting, my spouse, my businesses, without a doubt. And it's like
mm,
you can't fake it, right? Like
mm,
you can't fake the physicality of it. If you go to the gym or you run, or you either are showing up consistently and it
mm,
shows in the results, or you're not and it shows in the results. There's
yeah,
no waver.
mm. Yeah. I mean, if you don't mind me saying, it sounds like you've got a lot of your dad in you with the way you're saying there. You know, you've gone as a ballerina and you've gone full throttle. You're a martial arts instructor. What discipline, if you don't mind me asking?
Wateroo. So
Righty.
Okinawan karate.
Nice. So then you've gone that, and then you've gone to be a cop, and then onto what you do. That sounds very, like you were saying, very front facing, very fearless, and very, very driven. Which, yeah, no, that sounds amazing to me. I can't even comprehend. I mean, like, no, I wouldn't call myself a bodybuilder, but I'm saying in the last couple of years, since I've sort of hit 50, I've decided that I want to make sure that I'm doing well. And the discipline I have to put into that. You know, the amount of times when, oh, finish work and I'll be exhausted. Oh, it's leg day. And so
Yeah.
on we go, you know what I mean? I just, yeah. So no, I absolutely admire what you say. That's fantastic. So, well, if I can say, when you've then come to New York and you're in college and you know these kind of things, where did life go from there? I mean, when I suppose then you start to, I'm presuming, gain a bit more independence, a bit more control of your own destiny, life path, whatever you want. What did that look like then?
I think that around that time is the earliest I can remember me practicing the kind of framework that I teach now to other people. And that is the self-reflection, the management of your state,
Hmm.
as a 20-year-old person living in New York City, and I was in college, but I was working in hospitality for ITT Sheraton. They had a flagship
Hmm.
hotel, the St. Regis, so I worked there. And sometimes when you're younger, kind of a hothead, and I was kind of
Yeah.
like when people didn't wanted to have, sauce on the side or this or that, I was just like, wow, like intolerant, and
Yeah.
I did not manage my state very well. And that was kind of around the time I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do? What do I
Mm.
want my life to look like? Who do I want to serve? And I started unpacking what now I teach as my framework is really breaking patterns, patterns
Mm,
of behavior, kind of our default setting, for me, what I always trained and how I became, some
mm,
by default, just like a program in a computer. And unpacking that and figuring out like which one of those things do I want to keep, and then which
mm,
one of those things doesn't serve me, like being intolerant of people's,
mm,
dietary requests.
mm,
Being,
mm,
shooting off the my emotions, versus my cognitive, like thinking things through and
mm,
being in control of that state. That didn't serve me. So how was I going to do that? And then working
mm,
on unpacking that, and a lot of self-reflection, like being honest and unpacking who you are and what you like, what your passions. I have a 21-year-old and twin 16-year-olds now. And
mm,
for the last 6 years, that's all I've been, preaching to them is like, look at who you are, look at who you want to serve,
mm,
look at what you're good at. I don't really think that we need to work really hard at the things we're not really good at. I think you should
mm,
be really clear on what you're good at and then double down on that, triple down on what you're good at, and do
mm.
that. Do
Yeah.
that. And then later, when you make some money, you can hire people to do the stuff you don't do well.
Yeah, no, it's again, I'm seeing parallels but disparities. I mean, I didn't learn that stuff till I was about 40. I was a really late bloomer in the self-reflection kind of thing. But yeah, there was a lot, like you say, a lot of the intolerance to things, a lot of blowing up over really not a big deal. Now I look back on it. But yeah, when my kids come into the picture, that's changed things. And yeah, you use the example though. Say my daughter, she's 18. She's just started studying law and psychology, and maths was never a strong point when she was growing up. And my now ex got it into her head, said, "Oh, well, you're not good at maths, so don't worry about that kind of thing." But it sent her on a different path. She then felt that she had to do, I don't know, X amount of work and what. And it's taken a long time to get her to see, yeah, like you've said there, do what you're good at. She was hyper fixated on what I'm not good at to the detriment of what she was, if that makes sense. So, like you've just tapped
Yeah.
into there, yeah, it was. Again, I'm not claiming myself to be any great guru in any of this. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, I see the point that you're making. That yeah, pushing into leaning into what it is that you do well, what comes naturally to her, and seeing her now, she's flying. She's absolutely loving it, and it's so nice to see. I wish, yeah, I wish I'd been that switched on when I was that age. But there you go, hindsight. That's why I do this, I suppose. Wow,
Hindsight. This is your pay it forward version of
this
that.
correct. Yeah, well, that's the truth, and that's one where because I yeah went through some stories of my own, and I found there were a lot, predominantly guys, just don't seem to do well at a lot of this stuff. They don't. I don't know. They just don't know, or they try and staunch it out. I don't know whether that's a bigger cultural thing over here in New Zealand or whether it's just a worldwide phenomenon. I don't know. But a lot of the guys I was speaking to just didn't seem to have just the hardware, the ability to just say, I'm not doing well. It was all about ego, all about front, about, looking, whether it's how much money you've got, what car you drive, the things like that, them external markers that usually when you're on the come up that you put so much stock in. I'll be happy when I've got that house, when I've got that car, when I've got that salary band, whatever it is. And I got to a point where I'm like, these things are nice, but that's not it for me.
No, and I think, I mean, you hit on a good point. The difference in the genders is that Yeah, that it's just not as socially acceptable for men to show that side of them. I
Mm,
really think that we are all made of both feminine and masculine energies,
mm,
but our society has, very specific influence on us, like you should be doing this and you should be
mm,
doing that, so it's not as acceptable. But as soon as you realize that there are two energies that you carry, and you can be a strong, alpha male, but still be reflective and
mm,
introspective, and figure out, this doesn't work for me, this doesn't serve me, this story I'm telling myself, this belief that I have isn't bringing me to where I want to go. You can posture all you want, and we
mm.
do live in a
Yeah,
society that rewards those postures, right? The social
yeah,
media, and the
yeah.
everybody presents their PR self on social, and look what I got, and look at my car,
Mm,
and look at my plane, and look at my vacations. Even the ones who aren't at the top of that game, we post our vacation pictures. We
mm.
don't post the trip to the gym where you're dragging your legs like they're
Yeah,
dumb, they're
yeah,
dead behind you, and feeling horrible just to
mm,
do the reps, just to get there. We don't post that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Who wants to see that? So it's
Mm,
very easy to get sucked into the belief that that's it. And then for the young people too, they see the glory, but not the work behind it, like the
mm,
grit and I feel lucky that my kids have watched me build my business. They have seen
mm,
me, crying over the keyboard when I'm trying to figure out my, QuickBooks, as well as enjoy buying my lifelong car that I wanted when I turned
yeah,
50, because I worked my ass off to get it.
mm,
So they've seen all of that, and they have a little perspective on that. But it's easy.
mm,
I mean, even for me, when I'm on social media, and my algorithm brings me my heroes and my mentors, and I look and I'm like, oh, he's going all over the world speaking, and he's
mm,
doing this and that. And I have to remember that there's a process to get there, and the
yeah,
consistency and showing up every day, regardless of how you feel about it, that discipline will get me where I want. I just have to be
mm,
patient and continue showing up and being uncomfortable.
yeah.
So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think, well, that I think is what the world needs more of. I mean, I'll be honest, for me, a lot of the switch was, like you mentioned there, people showing their highlight reel and what have you. And I knew couples who just did not interact, did not speak. But as soon as the phone came out, it was all the flashed smiles and all this kind of thing. And I just thought, you know what, fuck that. I don't want that for my life.
Yeah.
That's so I again, it doesn't always work out well, but I try and be as authentic as I can. Again,
Yeah.
in conversations like this, in my dealings with people, not for anybody else, but that works for me.
Yeah. I've
I
done it on
do.
social media too. I have
Hmm,
shown up a couple times where I felt like this is the ugly side of my work or my life, and I have felt compelled to
hmm,
make a video and post it. And when COVID hit in my area here in 2020, it was fast moving. The steps that led to what eventually I had to close my winery, resort, and spa.
wow.
And it was literally like, okay, we heard the news. Our governor said we're gonna, these are some new things we have to follow. Then within days, it was like every day we would watch a press release. Okay, these new
Hmm,
things have to happen, these new things. And then we pared down. We've been in business already, 18 years. So we knew from before, like, okay, revenue's going to slow down. We need to start implementing, create a new budget, start
hmm,
cutting some of the fat, start doing those things. But within 10 days, it was dramatic. And at the very end, I was like, I've built this team of people. I cannot afford to furlough them. I'm going to have to let them go. And so I had
Mm,
built this amazing group of people who had values like mine, were,
mm,
invested in my vision for this business. I had to tell them all to go home. And so it was the
wow.
hardest meeting I have ever had to have. I felt such a responsibility to them and that I
Mm,
was really failing them. And then I kept it together. They left. And as they were leaving, I didn't. I just kind of melted down. And I did a video on Instagram back then. And I did a video really as a plea to my community to support small business, to step out and frequent, if you can't go to the pizza place you
mm,
love, order it to go. If you can't, the coffee shop, just kind of that. But it was like, it was ugly. It was
yeah.
like, I tried
Mm,
to keep it together and it was like the cry. And
mm,
I did it and I looked at it and I looked at it and I was like, oh, like it was hard. I was like, should I post? Should I not? Should I post? Should I not?
mm,
And I just felt like, you know what? People need to see what it is really
yeah.
like. I own a winery. We make our own wines. We have vineyards and stuff. It looks pretty and sexy and
Mm,
exciting, on the outside, but this is the reality of what
mm,
my life was. And I was like, okay. So I posted that video and the response I got was kind of a little all over the place. There was
mm,
no negative.
mm,
If they thought it, they didn't tell me, which I was good with that.
mm,
But
yeah.
people within my community, some public officials reached out to me and in support, but also thanking me for bringing this to light, for people to rally around each other and
Mm,
help each other. And so communities supported tourism and small business. I get hit up daily for donations and free stuff for
mm.
everybody trying to do a good cause. And I thought, okay, now it's time for you to come and order wine and take it to go by the box.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's absolutely it. Like we were saying before, like you said, it's sexy and people make assumptions. Oh, you've got a winery, you must be rolling in cash. These kind of things, but they don't see those nights staying up till 11:30 trying to balance the books. Those
Yeah.
days when you think, like you've just said then, you've done everything and these amazing people and you just couldn't make it work for, external reasons, but it left the same mark. And that's, yeah, I agree that people, well, seeing you ugly cry about how it's all going down, I think people would need to see that just to understand. Because it's easy, especially when you're looking through a computer screen, to just, oh, okay, that happened. Next, and move straight on without seeing the human cost. So no, I think that's amazing. And I personally, it's the real that I resonate with, that I look forward to. And that'd be something I think I'd be more likely to go when they reopen. I'm going to go around there. You
Mhm.
know, I
Yeah.
yeah no, I
And
like
there's lots of versions of that, parenting is hard. It is not for the
yeah
faint of heart, right?
yeah
You invest all yourself, your money, your time, and when they get to be teens, you know, there's a version of that that's like they don't like you, they don't they
yeah
they're not nice, to say the least.
yeah
They do things that make you worry, love them, but dislike them. But, all versions of that. And then I live in an area where I don't have family, I don't have support. It was my husband and I only, and I don't have maternity leave. I didn't have
mm,
babysitters. I didn't have all those things. So a lot of the weight of that fell on me. And there were a lot of times where it didn't look pretty. It didn't,
mm,
there was no like family, kumbaya. It
mm,
was ugly. And there were a couple times I stepped in my car and I was like, I need to drive there. That's my therapy. I've realized now in my
mm,
50s is in my car with no one in and driving is where
mm,
I find clarity. It's the space where, for whatever reason, both in crisis, but also in growth. Like
Mm.
some people do it in the shower, they get their
Mm.
bright ideas in the shower.
Yeah.
Mine's in the car. I'm driving, and all of a sudden I'm
Mm.
like, oh, I got to pull over. I got to write this down.
Yeah.
But there's been many times I got in my car when my kids were little, and I felt that overwhelm and the weight of all of it showing up the way I wanted
Mm.
to show up for everybody else and not taking care of me, and that I was like, I can't do this. I gotta go.
Mm.
And my oldest too, man, she is a spirited, beautiful person, but she put me through it.
Mm.
She
Yeah, I
really
can
did.
relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the greatness that will empower them in life sometimes makes them the most challenging children.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate. Yeah, we'd always raised my daughter to stick up for herself, to be forthright, and she is. She is. But yeah, sometimes it was a test. And yeah, no,
Yeah.
that they it's nice seeing her flourish now and nice seeing her do well, but when she was little sometimes it really was a struggle. Oh, no. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I like what you're saying then about finding out what it is that you need to do to either get yourself centered or, let's say, for your inspiration. Like I took up surfing about 4 years ago, and that was a bit of a game changer for me. Other than that, I tend to walk, just walk places and just, think my thoughts as I'm bobbling along and what have you. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's my calm. But this is where when I was younger, and I used to be a chef as well, so I used to do that kitchen thing. I was always push, 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 and then I was so tightly wound. So because well, I didn't have the skills to just stop and go, like, calm down, unpack, what have you. But also, I think looking back, I was probably too frightened to be honest. I might have to answer some hard questions that I didn't know or didn't like the answers to, that kind of thing. So that for me is the bit that came a lot later. But if I can take it back, you said that when you were in your 20s, you started to do the self-reflection thing. How did it move on from there as you sort of growing, as you're learning these lessons and taking this on? What did life start to look like?
Um, how it manifested was that with all that, kind of just diving into who I am and what my interests are and my skill sets, I ended up going into uh, the behavioral sciences. So,
Hmm.
but when I started in human behavior and in behavioral science, I really was drawn to the criminal side of that
Hmm.
spectrum. And so I did study a lot of serial killers and was looking for a career with the federal government here in the
Hmm.
United States. So that was kind of the path I saw for myself, and it manifested in the steps up to that. I did spend
Hmm.
10 years in law enforcement as a criminal investigator and defensive tactics instructor, and learned an incredible amount of people skills and listening and gosh, just what makes people decide to do what they do, and less about the black and white of life, but all the
Hmm.
gray in between, right? There
Yeah.
are really good people who make really bad decisions that end them in
Hmm.
bad places. There are really bad people who also out there who make bad
Yeah.
decisions too, but there's a grayness to it. It's not just
Hmm.
you broke a law and so really working with that element of society prepared me. But I realized that the system, at least in the United States, is broken.
Hmm.
And it really doesn't, there's not a lot of progress. And when there is progress, it's slow and
Hmm.
tedious. And I just didn't have the patience for that.
Hmm.
So, with some entrepreneurial spirit already, I thought I I need to go a different path. I need to find a way that I have more control over what my life looks like.
Mm.
And some of my, core values are the freedom and authenticity. And so working for government doesn't really
Mm.
coincide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So so I did it I did the same process again. Here I am. Now I'm 10
Mm.
years later, and I go from this identity, this job I have, and
Mm.
partially who I am. It's not really just a job.
Yeah.
Um, to what's next, and unpacking that, getting rid of the stuff I don't like, keeping the elements that I do like, the human behavior, human behavioral science, that kind of stuff,
Mm.
finding a way, how can I make money doing this? And putting all those pieces together, being okay with not being, I think, not knowing and not being good in the beginning. I think that's
Yeah.
really a big fear for a lot of people, is that
Yeah.
they don't want to do anything new or try something new, because when you're new at something, you suck at it.
Yeah.
You do. You suck. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. I mean, the first dates are awkward. The
Mm.
first time you're on stage, it's awkward. The first time you probably spoke on your podcast, you were like,
Yeah.
"Huh." I mean, it's
Mm.
just the way it is. And if for most people, that fear of not showing up the way they are, maybe in another part of their lives, is
Mm.
scary, scary enough to stop them from
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I just said, "Oh well, we'll
Mm.
see."
Yeah. Now this is
Well,
one that's I was the one that was scared of it because I was for the longest time I was more in my ego. So it was about what I was projecting, and like you said, you do something for the first time, you suck at it. You're not good. And I think I was too afraid of looking less than 100% at something. So I just avoided for the longest time. And this again led to a bit of a I don't know, let's say existential crisis later on or whatever what it was, because I just wasn't happy in what my life was and what I was contributing to it, you know? I mean, I don't know if you see people like this that you work with, but yeah, I don't know. I was wondering. I was so unhappy, and I couldn't figure out why. And it took a
yeah,
lot, going through a lot. It was actually weirdly enough when I flipped and started studying social work. A lot of the psych papers, were like little light bulbs coming on. Oh, I do that. So the human behavior stuff that you talk about, and the little, I don't know, I was learning, I don't know, attachment theory and such like, not the stuff we see on Instagram, the Bowlby stuff and what have you. And I started making a lot of sense. And that was, like I said, when I started having the self awareness at 40 that I wish I'd had at 20. But it really, yeah, it really did changed me. And it was from then I sort of started, how can I take control of what my life looks like? I mean, like you talk about systems and things like that, we're all stuck in. I can't change it at that, top level. But my corner of the world, I can impact, I can do. And that's, I suppose, what I took for it. So, yeah, sorry, I know I'm sidebarring here, but as you telling what you've gone through and what you do, I'm making little parallels with my own life.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
we know so many. There's quite a few famous people that you look at and that are, glorified. They're celebrities. They have
hmm,
tons of money. Robin Williams, Anthony
hmm,
Bourdain, all these people, and they're so unhappy with their
hmm,
lives. They take their own life. Like, that's the
hmm,
extreme of it. But
yeah,
so many people aren't happy with that, those materialistic. I think in the beginning, that's what you aim for. You try and get those things. Like, I was building a business, I wanted to make
hmm,
more revenue, I wanted to hit 7 figures, I want to do this stuff. And then when you hit a certain point, or you reach that, when I reached 7 figures in my business, I was like, okay, well, I've done that. Now what is it? Was the next one 8? Like, where do you go
yeah,
from there? And the reality was, for me personally, was that I wanted a way to be more fulfilled. I wanted my life to mean more. I
hmm,
wanted to be able to impact more people. So really, in business, I think the joy comes from, certainly we're all in business to make money, but
Hmm.
the joy really comes, the longevity, the ability to navigate the challenges comes from being really clear on how you get fulfilled from what you're doing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Your where you serve, who you serve on a deeper level. And so
Hmm.
even me being in hospitality, we shifted to, how can we, give our guests what they're looking for, which is a getaway in the mountains with a winery and some spa, but then deliver something they didn't realize they needed. And that was
Hmm.
more connection with
Hmm.
their loved one, their husband, their family, their girlfriends,
Yeah.
on a bachelorette. And so we started providing like retreats and things
Hmm.
that made them connect on a deeper level. And so they're away from their homes, they're away from their phones, they're away
Hmm.
from the distractions, a lot of times the kids, but they get to do something that brings them closer to the ones they
Hmm.
came with. And that was a bigger impact. So, finding that, I think, changes as
Hmm.
we get older or
Yeah.
we get wiser. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely something in that. Because when I was younger, if you'd have asked me what success was, it would have been a big house, lots in the bank, flash car, whatever, them external trappings. And now, like I said, I mean, yeah, these things might be nice. If somebody offers me a Maserati, I'm not going to say no, thank you. But that's not my god, Money, trappings are not. Yeah, that's not what I aim for in life, if that makes sense. I don't want to sound holier than thou when I say that, because it's not like, having money and what have you. We need money to get on, and we all want to earn a bit more. But it's like, as far as I suppose priority wise, I probably wouldn't place that sort of stuff at the top anymore. Whereas, yeah, for a long period in my younger years, it was all about that. That
Well,
that was how I showed.
once you reach one of those levels,
Mm,
what is it that you end up doing? You got the
mm,
car. Like I lived in New York City. I had no car. Zero. I walked everywhere. I took the
mm,
bus or the subway. I was 26 when I moved from New York and I went to Southwest Florida. I had to buy a car, my first car at
mm,
26. I barely had $10,000 to buy a car, so I didn't even know how to drive stick shift.
mm,
Nevertheless, I had my license. So, but that was the car I could afford. I bought a Rally Sport two-door stick shift, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna learn. I loved that car. I loved it. It
awesome.
was like I was a sporty little thing in Florida, like woo, right? But
Hmm.
as soon as you get it, what's the next thing? You're like, okay, I had
Yeah,
that for a while, and then I was like, well, I need a bigger car. I need
yeah,
another. And then, so when I was in my 40s and I got my first Mercedes, I was like, oh, I have made it. I got a little Mercedes, and it was a little coupe, and woo, and
mm,
it just keeps going. What you realize really fast is those are short lived. That's a flash in the pan. You get it,
yeah,
and I don't want to sound like from the other side, like, oh, it's easy. I've done it, and you shouldn't hope for that. I think that that's part of what might drive you. It might drive you,
mm,
but it doesn't fulfill you.
mm, yeah,
It doesn't fill that cup. And so what will happen is when life throws you a curveball, because it always does, those are,
mm,
I call them the uncontrollables.
mm,
When life throws you an uncontrollable, a diagnosis, economic, a relationship, whatever, you don't have the foundation in place to
mm,
deal with it because you're rooted in the material
yeah,
goals versus what your purpose is, your
mm,
real why you're doing what you're doing.
yeah, yeah. No, no, I definitely like that, because I remember, like, back when I was. I'll use the word fragile. That might sound wrong, but yeah, if things didn't go as I was envisioning or as I was planning, I really did struggle with that. just like you say, you get a curveball and what have you. I a lot of times I didn't operate with any sort of plan B. It was just right. This is what's happening, and through sheer force of will, I'll just keep going, even when looking back, I should have taken the step to say, actually, no, this is not working. Stop, cut your losses, and do something else. So I'd be carrying on a bit of a fool's errand until finally I had no other option than to say, I can't do any more. But I suppose the emotional cost to me during and afterwards was massive because I didn't have the wherewithal. Just I suppose, sit and just actually unpack what's gone on. I mean, that's something I think, yeah, is probably one of my more valuable lessons in life, to just sort of, I don't know, maybe chill out a little bit for one, but I don't know, consider other options. That's one. Again, I'm sidebarring and what have you, but I'm picking up what you're saying. I'm really sort of relating it to my own story, and I think, yeah, like you said, there's a lot of, I don't know, a lot of that goes on. I see it a lot in other people now. Having had my eyes opened, as it were, I've been red pilled to this kind of stuff, and then I pick up on it in others. I
Yeah.
don't know. So yeah. So you say you bought your nippy little car down in Florida. You're on your come up. So what happened then? How what turns did your life take at that point?
Well, I spent down there. That's where I did most of my law enforcement career, is
Hmm.
in Florida. And then as I was trying to kind of come back to the idea of elevating myself within my career, I had a very successful career with the agency I was with, and I was ambitious. And so
Hmm.
I looked at what's the next step, started the process of that again for the federal government. And
Hmm.
during that process, in that space, um, of doubt and uncertainty, and I realized that the path I was aiming for wasn't the path that was going to give me the life that I wanted. And so at
Hmm.
that time, I was 30, and
Hmm.
I wanted something different, and that path wasn't going to bring me there. So
Hmm.
I was ready to have a family. I wanted more freedom, more independence, of more control over what I did in my life. And that definitely wasn't it. And that's
Hmm.
really where I saw that. And again, I went back to that same framework where it was like, all right, you know, once you have broken some of those patterns that you have and have the skills that to unpack yourself and say, okay, now what do I want? Because it changes in life, right? What we want in
Hmm.
our 20s, 30s,
Yeah.
40s,
Yeah.
50s. So now what does it look like? Once you have that, then you have to start building that new default setting, right? So
Hmm.
it's a different version. So you have to start doing that. And I call it the Onamusha method. So the Onamusha were ancient Japanese female warriors.
Hmm.
And they were really well known for their skills in weaponry. And so when I do talks, I talk about how, they have to carry certain shields in their lives to deflect, in their battle, to deflect um, weapons
Hmm.
and to survive. And so I relate the idea of a shield as a boundary in your life. So
Hmm.
boundaries with people you love, people with that you give yourself to, content you consume, situations you put
Hmm.
yourself into, things you say yes to, and things you say no to. And so, really
Hmm.
rebuilding that identity or who you are requires you to form really strong and clear intentional boundaries,
Hmm.
knowing what you let in and what you don't. And sometimes those are like the people closest to you, right?
Hmm.
I've been married before. I was married very, very young, and after 6 years and growing, and it just didn't work out. but I come from a very religious and very kind of, stick with it, come, till death
Mm.
do us part. And so
Yeah.
I had a lot of noise from the outside saying what I should be doing and the path I should be walking in from my parents. And,
Mm.
at a certain point you listen, but you have to create a boundary there
Yeah.
from what you're going to let in. And sometimes it's the people who are closest to you. It's your parents, it's your spouse, it's
Mm.
your kids. You really have to double down. And so the Onamusha also wore helmets, and those helmets protected them. And I use that analogy for mindset.
Mm.
So really getting to put yourself in situations where you can overcome challenges. You kind of
Mm.
manipulate your environment. So you challenge yourself to do something that you think you can't do. And
Mm.
when you accomplish it, you're training your brain that you can do hard things.
Mm.
So races were that for me. I would think
Mm.
I was never a big runner. I actually have bad arthritis. And in my 40s, I was like, I'm going to start running races because
Mm.
I couldn't run from here to the mailbox. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, I don't think so. I know I won't die. And I know it's got to be a lot of work, but I'm
Mm.
going to do it. And
Mm.
so I did a 5K, and then I signed up for a half marathon, and I was like, oh my God.
Mm.
Ooh.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm going to do this. But I trained. I showed up when I didn't want to. I did all the things. I made it a
Mm.
non-negotiable part of my life. And I
Mm.
ran my first half marathon in 2 hours and 32 minutes, I think it was.
Wow.
And I proved to myself, besides being happy, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I did it, I proved
Yeah.
myself I can do hard things. And the more
Mm.
times you do that, your brain doesn't know the difference between the race and getting through a challenge of finances or getting
Mm.
through, emotional or relationship challenge, or it doesn't know the difference. It just
Mm.
um, relies on what it's done in the past. And so
Yeah.
training your mind to know you can survive this. This is temporary is super important.
Mm.
And then the last part is their weapons. So the Onamusha were known, it's like a blade at the end of a stick. The name is escaping my brain, but they were really skilled in
Mm.
using this skill or this weapon. And so I talk about really building the skill set you need in order to step into the person you want to be, the life you want
Mm.
to have. And so a lot of people, and you touched on this in the beginning, skip from where I am to this is where I want to be, and don't think about
Yeah.
what do you need to know? Who do you need to be to step into that, right? I want to
Yeah.
be wealthy. I want to create generational wealth. Well, who's that? What do those people do? They budget, they learn, they get financial optics, they get consultants, they take classes, they do, what are all the things that the person who has built generational wealth, what are they doing? You need
Mm.
to do that. You need to do whatever they're doing and mimic that
Yeah.
so that you become the person who can then handle it. So
Mm.
I heard not that long ago a gentleman say that God answers prayers backwards. So
Yeah.
if you pray for success and money and wealth, he will make you poor so that you understand and you learn the skills
Mm.
you need to manage the few beans you have before you get and become the
Yeah.
person before you get that. If you pray for the love of your life, he puts you alone so that you can love yourself first and
Mm.
learn what that feels like and be 100% before you try and find someone to belong to with also.
Yeah.
So I find that is deeply accurate.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I can absolutely agree with that because again, as you said, funnily enough, I started running at one point. I'd never been a runner either. I was in hospital with pancreatitis, so I said, I'm going to do an organized race. And like you say, the same thing. I was up, I was training, but that was, I think, for me, my first like big challenge where I could look at myself and go, yeah, you can do hard things. And that's something I tell my kids now. You get better by doing the hard things. And yeah, I remember, like I say, when I first finished that race, and this was literally a week after I'd separated from my ex, and she had the kids, and she didn't bring them to watch me. So I was gutted. And it was one of those, I'm looking around, and no, there. But I still, at the end of it, it was still that intrinsic, I did this, I managed this. And then after that, there were quite a lot of, again, starting over in your 40s, thinking, shit, what happens now? But it was a lot more of those moments. Like I said, dating, you want to find the love of your life and what have you. Well, I went through some absolute nightmares, boundaries I didn't have. So, like you're saying, the both the helmet and the shield, I needed to forge my own at that stage. It was, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just amazed. I'm picking up on how relevant it has been to my life. I mean,
Yeah.
this is years ago now, and I think, yeah, I've come a long way. And like you say about the prayers being answered in reverse, yeah, that hindsight, looking back on that, I can take stock from that. I'm not religious, but I can see the wisdom in what's being said there. In that, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah. And
you.
it doesn't have to be, I am a religious person or a spiritual person and I believe in God, but if you believe in the universe or metaphysics or,
Hmm,
it's kind of the same. There is preparation to become the person that you need to be. It
hmm,
doesn't just there's no magical fairy that just
yeah,
waves her wand and bestows it to you and you're able to manage that.
yeah,
There are steps that teach you that I can do hard things. I can handle this. I can,
hmm,
and I manufacture those situations, so to speak, in my life, in the physical, because I'm training my brain to understand that when I do, I've gone through a bankruptcy. I've lost everything I had, all my real estate. I had my van and I gave birth to my twins a week later. I had 3 children. I
wow,
had zero to my name, had to go on food stamps and figure a way out. And
hmm,
I knew, okay, I've done hard things. My brain understood. I don't have any idea how I'm going to get through this, and it doesn't take away the pain and struggle to get through it. However, I have the fundamental belief that I can do hard things. I am wired
hmm,
for this. I can handle this. What are the things I need to do? And go into the mindset that requires me to get the skills
hmm,
and, all of the things to be able to move forward. And so
hmm,
each step, like I could give you 5 more examples of different circumstances, but exactly
hmm,
the same thing. Even right now, as we speak live, I am um, dealing with a family crisis where my parents were traveling on a vessel down the Amazon River, and my father got sick. He contracted SARS. He
wow,
was removed from the ship and brought to shore in this very remote city, very
hmm,
poor, in the Amazon jungle. He is right now on a ventilator with
hmm,
pneumonia and SARS, and the hospital is so poor that they
hmm,
sent my mom to the pharmacy to buy shampoo, conditioner, a comb,
wow,
diapers, you
hmm,
know, all the things that we presume in,
hmm,
the modern world that a
yeah,
hospital has. But the circumstances, the level of safety risk for my mom and my now 1 or 2 of my sisters are traveling over there. This has unfolded in the last 3 or 4 days, and this is, besides it's a nightmare,
hmm,
it's a challenge.
yeah,
It's a challenge that I have no control over, and I even more in my own life. I can't travel to Brazil because I'm a Brazilian. I'm born there. I'm a Brazilian national, and they require, even if you're an American citizen, to have a Brazilian passport, and I don't
Mm,
have one, so I
mm,
can't go. So I'm in an uncontrollable space, right? I have
mm,
nothing. So I, even though I'm going through the circumstances, I
mm,
know that I am strong enough to handle this, that
mm,
I have done hard things in lots of different spaces in my life, and that I can handle this, that
mm,
it will not break me, and I will navigate through and do what I need to do to get to the other side of that.
mm,
So, just the same framework that someone would take if they were, struggling to figure out what they're going to do when they go to college. It's the
mm,
same framework. It's just different circumstances.
mm. Wow. Well, can I acknowledge? Thank you for telling me that and what have you. That must be, yeah, that must be a hard situation. I mean, I don't doubt you've got the strength to sort of get through it, but being so far removed and having so little involvement and what have you, I can't imagine how difficult that would be. So again, I hope everything works out well with that,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, my heart goes out to you guys.
Technology,
Yeah.
we all kind of poo-poo technology a lot, and there's some things
Mm,
that we have to adapt to and learn new boundaries for, not being on our phones, not scrolling, not, that
mm,
I preach all the time in general and to my children. And but technology is also such a beautiful tool and a gift that keeps
mm,
us connected and lets us see, this generation has everything you need to know to build a business, to grow, to unpack, to is on a phone now. It's not even just on
mm.
the computer; it's on a phone. They can,
Yeah.
look up everything. I can Google Earth the neighborhood of the hospital of which my parents are in Macapá in Brazil. Like
Mm,
that just blows my
yeah.
mind. You and I are from the generation, we're like the bridge generation, is I heard
Yeah.
someone call it. We know life before any of this stuff. We know life
Yeah.
before phones, before
Mm,
cell phones, not landline. That's my husband is before cell phone.
yeah.
Um, but we know life before that. We know life before. Um, we didn't even have CDs back
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
and now so we grew up this way and we transitioned and now we're here in this part with all this
Mm,
technology and AI and all the amazing things that AI can do for you. If you're in business
mm.
and you don't use AI, I'm like, oh, come on, you're missing the
Yeah.
boat.
No, absolutely. Nice one. Yeah, because lately I've seen a lot of Gen X posts, and there's been a bit of I suppose, a resurgence of these nostalgia. Things like you've just said then. We knew a time where you knew where your friends were because of the amount of bikes outside the house. That kind of thing. You
Yeah.
had to show up somewhere on time because nobody had mobile phones to be able to say, I'm running late and that kind of thing. But I suppose it's one of them. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've got my nice rose tint glasses on it, and I loved those times, don't get me wrong. But like you've said, the strides that we've got now, the things that we can actually do, that I think we all take for granted in a lot of ways. Like you say, how Google it has just become part of the narrative.
Yeah.
Well, 30 years ago, that doesn't even mean anything. That's not a thing, you
No, you have to
know?
go to the library and get an encyclopedia.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I'm seeing now. A lot of it, like yeah, because I'm still studying now. I'm doing more postgrads and what have you. But the ease at which I can find documents exactly what I want, whereas before, yeah, the library and just overawed and going through Dewey Decimal, amazing. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if I can ask, let's bring this one home. What's next for you, Ilka? What's coming up next?
For me, it's really just that realization that what's the next iteration of having more impact on people and
Mm,
helping other women in business who have families, who kind of want it all, want their cake and eat it too. And,
Mm,
some people say we're not able to do that. And I think you are. I think you can find harmony with all the different parts of who you are. I
mm,
have multiple passions, and I have found harmony in my life. And it's not balance, because balance means that I spend equal amounts of time in all the areas. I find harmony. So sometimes I'm more of in mom mode and taking care
mhm,
of what my kids need and what I need to show up as for them. Sometimes I'm more business owner mode. I'm coach, I'm keynote speaker. But I'm able to fold all those into my life. And so the last couple of years I've been doing more presentations on stage as a keynote speaker for different
mhm,
companies and organizations. And I love that because I enjoy the energy, but I also love it because I'm able to send that message to a large group of people
mm,
at once. So I feel like I'm just hopefully shifting the perspective in a slight way, just making them open their eyes to the possibility that it could be different and they could maybe not be stuck, or maybe there's some other way, or just a slight shift in perspective. So I do love
mm,
doing the keynote speaking, and then I've started doing some leadership coaching,
mm,
so one-on-one with other people who run businesses. And I've been in business for I've had this business for 20, the winery resort, for 4 years. And so I do business assessments, which is something new that I have started. And that's really people who've been in business from 5 to 10 years, who are making, more than between 500 and $3 million in revenue. I will come in and be a full assessment of their business and kind of where they're at and how they can level up. So um,
mm,
I've done that multiple times. And so I have found that in that middle space there, where you're not like a mom and pop small business, but you're
mm,
not big enough to have your own, um, you know, um, CPO. Um,
mm,
you need something in the middle, and there's really not a lot available to give you some perspective of what's the health of my business? What does it look like?
mm,
Should I keep going? Like you were saying before, do I keep grinding and grinding? Because
mm.
all entrepreneurs have the grind in them. They're like, signed up for this, I'm doing this, until they pull it from my dead glove
Yeah,
hands.
yeah,
So we have the grit. We just don't always have the right direction and really understand where to double down on it. So
mm,
leave some of this. And so I go in and give a little perspective and a bunch of deliverables for that.
mm. Well, well, I've got to say, I've been really inspired by your story. I think you're amazing. I really do. I'm blown away by how much you've done, and more than that, though, your attitude towards it all. I I don't know. I think I'm jealous in a lot of ways, but I love to hear that sort of thing from people. It's amazing. So thank you for talking with me. I really do appreciate it. It's been lovely.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel
No, it's
honored to be on here with you. And I know what time is it where you are?
it's now just gone 6 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, there you go. That's my grind. I was up at 4 o'clock so I could get myself ready to
I
record at
appreciate
5.
it. I
And here we
appreciate
are.
it. I have a friend in Bali, and when COVID hit, we used to do some stuff together online, and we were always like, oh, for one of us, it was the end of the day, and we were dragging like, huh. And
Hmm.
the other one, it was first thing, like still didn't get your coffee in your head yet. You were like, oh, but we made
Yeah,
it work. So
yeah. No, it's great. But no, no, seriously, thank you. Thank you for coming on talking with me. It's
my
it's
pleasure.
it's really been a pleasure. And thank you out there for listening. Again, I always appreciate your support. If I can ask you, if you don't already know, please look out for me on Instagram and TikTok now under Social Harmony Talk, and Facebook under Social Harmony Time to Talk, where I'll post show links, photos, what's going on, selfies of my life, random things, and just a bit of a snapshot into me. I will still be releasing a new episode every Monday at 6 p.m. New Zealand time on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also on YouTube. So if I could ask you, please follow me across those platforms, like, comment, share, get involved. It does increase my reach and I really appreciate it. If you wanted to join me for a conversation yourself, if you've got a story to tell, please get in touch. We can set something up and discuss a future episode together. But for now, go well, look after yourselves, and keep talking. Thank you very much for listening.